Lake Victoria, the largest freshwater lake on the African continent and probably one of the largest in the world. A massive water body dotted with numerous islands, with Sese Islands forming the largest archipelago on the continent. Bulingugwe Island, a seemingly insignificant tiny island, stands barely 400 meters from the mainland Munyonyo, a once favorite pastime getaway place for Kabaka Mwanga, one of the powerful Buganda monarchs. This pathway, now overgrown with grass and abandoned, was once a gateway to board his favorite canoe Waswa to Bulingugwe over 120 years ago. The path has continued to dwindle in the last 3 years due to the rising water levels of the lake. Bulingugwe is considered a sacred island of significant cultural and historical importance for Buganda. It is dawn, and I set out with my crew to explore the mystery and glamour of the island and also try to understand why Kabaka Mwanga was obsessed by it. The golden glow of the sunrise rays beaming on the calm waters, the captivating sounds of the singing birds, the sight of the fishermen casting their nets, and the boat laden with passengers going to 10 gardens, all blend well to give the lake the charms and beauty as we head for the island. The 10-minute boat ride ends with our boat docking to the site of a typical Baganda village, banana gardens dotted with cassava plantations, giving the island a fresh lush greenery. It is evidently clear that the island is sparsely populated.
Kizinga Bulingugwe kuliko abasirikale ba SWAT batugamba bakuumira Aga Khan era kuliko n'ebipande biriko property ya Aga Khan era kuliko n'abatuuze baffe abaveeno n'abakozi abakolerako nga bava ku kino ekyalo kyennyini ne bagenda bakola okwo babasasula omusaala okubanga bakolera okwo.
As we edge into the island, we're pleasantly surprised to encounter shrine-like relics that are endemic to Baganda culture, reminiscent of the bygone era yet still relevant in Buganda.
Ntwalayo abantu ku kizinga abagenda mu bintu by'okusamira, bagenda ne batwalayo abalwadde kazinga ako ne babasawula n'emmenge ekyagendayo tukyalinayo obwakabaka bwaffe.
Moving up the hill through a labyrinth reveals more verdant, a biodiversity haven that ends into other shrines. Although seemingly abandoned, they are still visited by the Kabaka.
Amasabo ago ga njawulo, kuliko amasabo ga mirundi ena. Essabo erisooka lye bayita okwaniriza omugenyi azze okutabaala ensozi. Essabo eryokubiri erikkirizibwa Nnaabagereka wa Buganda okujja wabanga azze n'atuulawo oba n'afukamirawo n'asabirawo. Era waliwo oluzzi olulaga nti Nnaabagereka wabazze n'asabirawo. Eryokusatu y'entikko ey'obwakabaka bwa Buganda. Singa Ssaabasajja Muwenda Mutebi yazze oba Kabaka wa Buganda watuuka n'afukamira n'asaba. Essabo eryokuna lye naffe bakinnoomu ng'Abaganda bwe tujja nga twambadde tuggumidde naffe ne tufukamira ne tusaba bye twetaaga. Essabo eryokutaano, omukazi ayagala okuzaala oba omuntu yabula wajja n'afukamira n'osaba n'obaako ne by'obikkawo.
Bulingugwe Island is specifically known as Mwanga's favorite place that he would take time off to relax. It is here that he practiced his favorite water sport and also hippo hunting, another of his favorite pastime activity.
He had a navy, inherited from his father, and he's the one who started the canoe regatta at Munyonyo. That is also his legacy, these canoe competitions. And he was very fond of hunting hippos.
Ssaabasajja Kabaka wa Buganda abadde nga asimbulira wano amaato g'empaka geetoolodde ekizinga kino mpaka lwe gakomawo wano mu mwalo.
His love for water endeared Mwanga to have a man-made lake constructed in Mengo with intention to create a channel connecting it to Munyonyo.
Mwanga loved water. And one of his most enduring legacy is the Kabaka's Lake. And if the British had not spoiled his plans, he wanted to link Mengo, his palace, to Bunyonyo by digging a canal from the lake to Munyonyo.
Although he had had a Christian upbringing, Kabaka Mwanga is famously remembered for persecuting Christians, a persecution that culminated into a massacre of Christian converts leading to the current celebrated Uganda martyrs. But what caused him to vent such ruthless brutality on these young men?
He went for the converts, not because necessarily they were Christian converts, but because conversion had turned them into political rebels who rebelled against his political authority.
The fact that all the 22 were young men and not any woman was martyred raises public suspicion that Mwanga was probably homosexual and that he killed them for refusing his sexual advances, a claim disputed by scholars and historians.
That's the colonial narrative. If you wanted to really ruin his reputation, you had to think of something which was patently anti-Baganda. When Matters died, Mwanga had 14 wives. In Buganda, if the king adopts a certain habit, those people around him, the chiefs, do the same thing. So if Mwanga had been a homosexual, all the Kagwaza and the Mugwanyas should have been homosexuals because these were the people around him.
In the patriarchal norms of the day, women were not pages. So he killed pages because they were already boys.
Another popular belief that his brutal behavior was precipitated by drugs consumption, specifically marijuana. Another claim scholars dispute.
It is true that Mwanga, some of his supporters, were what they called the futabanji. They used the weed, mainly from Mavira forest. That gave them courage. But if you were general, it would be stupid to smoke bang, because then who would give the command?
Mwanga's reign was plagued by countless armed conflicts, ranging from family succession struggles together with religious and colonial power struggles. These forces eventually ganged up together against him, forcing him out of his official palace in Mengo to Bulingugwe, where he sought refuge on the 24th of January 1892.
Mwanga confronted powerful global forces. He was inexperienced, he was young, and he was betrayed.
He was a pawn in these wars. He wanted to retain his power, and he was kicked like a ball from one group to the other. And his children had been killed by Kalema, his brother, the Muslim Kabaka. He wanted to remove all opposition. Even killed his daughters.
Because of its strategic location, Bulingugwe was one of the islands in Lake Victoria that Kabaka Mwanga made his military base. This enabled him to take full control of Lake Naluvale, as it is traditionally known.
Bulingugwe played a big role in the struggle against the imposition of British colonial rule, because right from around 1894, he began to buy arms from the Arabs and ivory. All his goodies were stored there, and his trusted generals were positioned there. People like Gabriel Kintu, one of his leading generals, they had their headquarters at Bulingugwe.
Fleeing to Bulingugwe did not deter his enemies from following him there. With Captain Lugard's superior military prowess backed by the Maxim gun, Mwanga was forced out of Bulingugwe.
This was the major massacre executed by the British and their supporters against the Baganda. So 700 were killed.
The British defeated them. They had the Maxim gun, and the Africans had either this one bullet loader or just a spear. With no experience, they would shoot while they are standing.
Bulingugwe was looted and devastated. Chiefs who hated Mwanga helped themselves to the various properties at the island, including the island itself, which was taken over by Ham Mukasa, a prominent Buganda chief who had allied closely with the colonialists.
Reverend Zimbe, who was on the British side, describes in his book, Buganda and Kabaka, what they did there. Women were abducted, men were killed, a lot of property was taken. Mwanga escaped and many of his followers, but others could not make it.
Even when he returned, Mwanga would not compromise on the retention of independence for Buganda. Therefore, he decided to fight against the colonialists together with their local chiefs' backers. However, he could not match this combined force of rebels.
It was not only betraying the Kabaka, the Christians were fighting Muslims, the Christians were fighting amongst themselves. So these new identities were competing for power and influence in that short period and had to confront global forces. Who else could confront those global forces and manage to defeat them at that time on the African continent? Everybody who tried to resist those global forces actually lost out.
In 1897, chiefs in council deposed Mwanga and appointed his son Daudi Chwa II as Kabaka, making him the youngest king to ascend to the throne in Buganda. Chwa ascended to the throne on the 14th of August 1897. After a series of wars during which Mwanga was defeated, he was subsequently captured together with his ally Kabalega and exiled in the Seychelles. Mwanga later on died on the 8th of May 1903.
The doctors have explained to me that if he had had an operation, he could have survived. But he refused to have that operation because in our traditions, kings don't spill blood. And once they spill blood, they have to die. Because on learning that his son, 13-month-old son, had become king, he made this exclamation, "Oh, Buganda isigadde njerere."
To many, Mwanga is considered a villain, while a few have an opposite picture of him.
By the standards of today, these are different standards of human rights issues or whatever. Kabaka Mwanga was not the worst killer of Buganda kings. Actually, Mutesa, I'm told, killed more people. So are other kings.
The massacre by the British of Mwanga's followers at Bulingugwe qualifies as a colonial crime. Today, countries of the Global South and members of BRICS are talking about setting up a colonial crimes tribunal to try elements from the former colonial powers that committed appalling crimes during colonization. Bulingugwe is certainly a candidate for such a court to consider. Meanwhile, Bulingugwe Island remained a property of Ham Mukasa and became a family property passed on from generation to generation.
These big chiefs grab whatever land they want. And Ham Mukasa surveyed it for the 1900 land settlement and took it. Now, if you say that my greatest enemy has given me land, is that credible? No. So Ham Mukasa was a bitter enemy of Mwanga. They were fighting him. And how can somebody you're fighting give you land?
Today, the ownership of Bulingugwe Island is contested. Research shows it was listed as a property of Ham Mukasa, later sold to Mukwano and then gifted to Madhvani. On the other hand, some Baganda culturalists believe the island should remain a preserve of the kingdom.
Bulingugwe should really be a Buganda War Museum. So whoever owns Bulingugwe today, the Baganda should appeal to him or them to either give it back to the Baganda, or the Baganda should be allowed to buy it back, because it is a major anchor of our history of the struggle against British rule.
They may be now legally owned by somebody who looks at the economic property value. But the other claimants in this contestation are looking at it as land with a historical value and contested. And who will win? Most likely it is the one who will be having the political power. So whoever wins it, it will be determined by the political value.
Ngenda kusanyuka nnyo nga Buganda buno buzzeewo ng'omuzungu yabusangira nga ne gavumenti zentukanya nazo wano Kabaka yatutegeera.
Attempt to get a comment from Buganda Land Board about the matter was futile as they declined to give us an interview. Sharon Chomdisha, UBC News.